Imagine, if you will, a prime minister who approaches his role not with the fiery conviction of a national leader, but with the cautious, soul-crushing precision of a suburban accountant. Picture Sir Keir Starmer sitting in the BBC studio, looking Laura Quinsberg dead in the eye, and essentially asking for a performance review for the year 2027 before he has even survived 2026. It is the political equivalent of a footballer celebrating a goal that has just been ruled out by VAR, except the VAR in this case is the entire British public, and they are not just checking for offside, they are checking for a pulse. We have hit a point where Starmer's 5-year mandate feels less like a promise and more like a prison sentence for the British taxpayer. But while the PM is busy checking his spreadsheets, the rest of the country is watching the borders dissolve, the economy tank, and the billionaires flee for the exits faster than guests at a bad wedding. Quick favour. Before we get into the brutal 4-word demolition that has left Downing Street reeling, a quick favour, if you are loving this unapologetic look at the state of our nation, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of our viewers have not joined the British Report yet. And honestly, Keir Starmer is checking your subscription status more often than his own approval ratings. It is free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Done it. Brilliant. Now, back to the show.
That Keir Starmer has had such a lucky break here, because a story that was dominating all the headlines just a few days ago, his absolute fiasco over the Egyptian El Fattah, who he made his top priority to welcome to the UK, has been virtually drowned out by all the global dramas, by the events in Venezuela and, speculation over whether Trump might be about to try and take over Greenland. But I think we shouldn't let him off the hook. And I know that here on this show, we never let Keir Starmer.
Certainly not.
This is just your beginning of what should be a daily reminder that this woeful government made it their top priority to bring a hate-mongering extremist to the UK. There you go, folks.
The Talk TV ambush, Rafe Haydar Manku strikes. The stage for this week's most delicious humiliation was Talk TV's Plank of the Week. Now, Kevin O'Sullivan is never one to pull his punches, but it was broadcaster and historian Rafe Haydar Manku who delivered the killing blow, discussing the ongoing and frankly skyrocketing migrant crisis. Haydar Manku did not just cite statistics, he painted a portrait of a government in total chaotic freefall. He pointed out that in 2025, over 41,000 illegal migrants crossed the English Channel in small boats. That is a 30% increase from last year and a staggering 40% higher than the year before. Remember when Starmer promised to smash the gangs? It turns out the only thing being smashed right now is the British border and the public's remaining sliver of patience. Haydar Manku's fuming assessment was simple. The numbers are back to the disastrous levels of 2022, but without any of the tough talk that at least pretended to address the issue. We are being led by a man who thinks a firm "we are working on it" is enough to stop an armada of dinghies, the suburban accountant versus the reality. But the real sting came when the discussion turned to Starmer's personal brand of leadership, or lack thereof. Haydar Manku's 4-word takedown was as sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. He described Starmer as having the assertiveness of a suburban accountant. Think about that for a second. It is the perfect analogy. Starmer is not the captain of the ship. He is the guy in the back office trying to figure out if the lifeboats are tax deductible, while the hull is actively scraping against an iceberg. Haydar Manku pointed out that Starmer recently gave an interview where he stated with that classic monotone certainty that he definitely will be Prime Minister in 2027. Now, in the world of politics, saying you will still have your job in 18 months is not confidence, it is a desperate plea for relevance. A truly confident leader would be talking about leading their party to a landslide victory in the next general election. But even Starmer, in his heart of hearts, knows that such a claim would be so far-fetched it would qualify as science fiction. He is essentially clinging to his seat like a passenger on a bus that has already missed its stop, hoping nobody notices he has no idea where the driver is going. The great billionaire exodus, Russia 2.0. If you thought the migration figures were bad, wait until you hear about the people who are actually leaving the country. According to Haydar Manku, the UK economy has tanked to such a degree that billionaires are fleeing our shores more than anywhere else on the planet, apart from Russia. Let that sink in for a moment. Britain, the historic global hub of finance and stability, is now being mentioned in the same breath as a country under total international sanctions. The wealthy are not just moving their money, they are physically packing their bags. And why wouldn't they? Under Starmer and Rachel Reeves, the UK has become a hostile environment for anyone who dares to create wealth. We have seen tax hikes on everything from capital gains to private schools, and the message from Downing Street is clear. If you are successful, we will find a way to punish you for it. It is a brain drain and a wealth drain combined into one giant, self-inflicted wound. We are trading our highest taxpayers for a record number of illegal arrivals, and Starmer has the audacity to call this a mandate for change. Change, yes, but into what? A high-tax, low-growth museum of what Britain used to be?
Well, there are two big embarrassments for Keir Starmer here. One, this shows Brexit working. Now, he doesn't want to talk about Brexit working. He wants to talk about it being a disaster to be mitigated. He wants to get closer ties with the EU. He's even talking crazily, in my view, about kind of youth mobility. In other words, introducing another aspect of free movement back into the UK. In fact, he should be working out that Brexit will be his saviour in two ways. One, it will allow him to properly and visibly control net migration. And the other big one is the AI regulation. We've now got sovereignty over this, so we can have a kind of AI business plan that Europe would not be able to match.
Which the second one might give you the growth he needs and the election. The first one, I hadn't thought about that. This 18 to 30-year-old freedom movement, that is on the cards for this year. So just as he grabs his holy grail, he can declare, I've got control of net migration, and 5 Tory governments couldn't do that and promise you that they would do it, and they couldn't do it. Just as he gets that, he lets it go again. With youth movement.
I know, this is the most staggering own goal. And you're looking at this thinking, my God, can he really blow it? With Keir Starmer, the answer is always yes to that question. I can't recount why Shabana Mahmood, who seems to be a bit more on it than the Prime Minister, isn't making more of a fuss about this. I mean, sure, I get it that Keir Starmer isn't particularly, doesn't really like Brexit, but think of how many Labour MPs there are who are destined to lose their seats to Reform right now.
Yeah.
If I was one of those MPs, and I'd be seeing my own voters really concerned about migration, I would want to say to them, look, this Labour government has controlled net migration. It's hit net zero. It's achieved what the Tories were never able to achieve. This is a boast which seems to just stick in their craw. They don't seem able to articulate.
The knife in the front, Starmer's internal enemies. As the outside world looks on in disbelief, the drama inside the Labour Party is getting even more Shakespearean. Kevin O'Sullivan added his own spicy take to the broadcast, noting that the knives are out for Sir Keir. But unlike the classic political betrayal where you are stabbed in the back, O'Sullivan claims they are lining up to stab him in the front. There is no more pretense. The Labour left is restless, the cabinet is leaking like a sieve, and the public is staring at a New Year's hangover that shows no sign of clearing. The utter chaos that Starmer blamed on the Conservatives has not disappeared. It has simply moved into his own office and put its feet up on the desk. Every time Starmer mentions his 5-year mandate, you can almost hear the audible groans from his own backbenchers. They know that at this rate, they won't have a party left to lead by 20. The question is no longer if someone will move against him, but who will be the one to finally pull the trigger on a leadership challenge. The Laura Quinsberg interview, a study in denial. This brings us to Starmer's recent long-form performance with the BBC's Laura Quinsberg. It was meant to be a reset, a chance to show he was still in control. Instead, it felt like a hostage video, where the hostage was also the person in charge. Starmer insisted that he was elected with a mandate to change the country, and that he intends to be faithful to it. He even joked that if the interview worked, they could do it again next January. It is the kind of smug, self-congratulatory comment that makes people want to put their foot through the television screen. He speaks as if delivering is a future event that he has already scheduled in his diary, while the people of Britain are living through the consequences of his failures now. He claimed the Tories were booted out because of constant chopping and changing of leadership, which caused utter chaos. True, but Starmer is proving that constant stability and failure is just as destructive. He wants to be judged at the next election. At this rate, the judgment is going to be swifter and more brutal than anything he witnessed in his days as a prosecutor. Conclusion, the mandate of sand. So there we have it, a Prime Minister who thinks he is a statesman but acts like an accountant, a border that exists only on maps, and an economy that is scaring away the very people who fund it. Sir Keir Starmer is sitting in a seat that is getting hotter by the second, clinging to a 2024 mandate that is rapidly turning to sand between his fingers. The 4-word takedown from Rafe Hadal Manku was not just a witty observation, it was a diagnosis. We are being led by a man who is terrified of the very change he promised to deliver. Thank you so much for watching the British Report. We will see you in the next one.